So, Shannon, are you buying his explanation?
I guess, and then he tweeted a picture of what it's, I guess that's the term they use down there in South Florida or something. I had never heard of it. Now, I've heard of somebody saying you're a kook, but I've never heard it referred to as the way that he used it. So, and I guess I'm aging myself out of that demographic, Skip, because I thought I was hip, go to the barbershop, and I talked to a lot of young guys, just try to stay up on my lingo, but I'd never heard it, that word used in that context. Now, that's not to say that it hasn't been, but I've never heard it. So I guess I don't really have a choice but to take him at his word. But we need to make sure that we have an understanding of the words that we're using. So, because there are a lot of words that you might think is okay that might be offensive to someone else. So before we utter it, before we tweet it out or text it out or do something with it, make sure we have a full grasp of the word. So in the process, I mean, maybe the second or third meaning means that. But what's the first meaning? That's normally where the people go with, the first meaning. So I noticed he didn't tweet out that first meaning. What's the first meaning of that word, Skip? Oh, okay. He found a dictionary that had, oh yeah, that's what it means. That's what I'm gonna take him at his word, Skip. I don't know Carlton Davis. If Carlton Davis walked past me on the street, I couldn't tell you who he was. So he said it was an honest mistake. He used it in the context that it meant lame. I have to have no choice but to take him at his word, because like I said, I don't know enough about it to say he's lying or he's telling the truth. But just make sure moving forward, young man, that we understand the language that we're talking, that we're speaking.
Clearly, the only meaning I know of this word is that it's an anti-Asian slur. That's it.
And it just so happens, Skip, when we're trying to speak out against anti-Asian hate, it's ironic that right smack dab in the middle, that's when he uses it.
So, to my understanding, this started during the Korean War as a slur our troops used against the enemy, the Koreans. And where I first became most aware of it was used often in all the Vietnam movies that got made. All the war movies about Vietnam. And that's all I've ever heard. And I was hoping maybe you had heard this.
No, I've never heard it. And the only time, like I said, Skip, the only time I've ever heard it, the first time I ever heard it, I think I might have been in like kindergarten. And I had a friend of mine, I think he was Taiwanese or something. His name was Mark Sampson. His dad was a doctor in Glenville. And somebody called him that. So I guess they had heard it from somewhere else. And I didn't know what it was. So I went home and asked my grandfather. Well, my grandfather was in the war. So he knew what it was. He said, but don't you say that.
So back to your screenshot, I don't know. I think this was written in by a user to the sort of Urban Dictionary. And maybe in Miami, its colloquial use is
I never heard it.
Lame, whack, fool, stupid. Okay. And in the tweet, he says he was actually aiming it at a producer who was trying to take over Miami. Well, my question is, why would you tweet about this? Why would you go public with this in the first place?
Why don't you just DM him? Why don't you just pull up on him?
I don't know. That's where I get lost on the use of social media. Don't hit send. Think about it. Maybe he didn't understand. Now it's the Myers-Leonard defense of, I didn't know what that meant.
Kook, Skip. Oh, man, that old kook. I mean, she's
okay.
The person's out of their minds. They don't know what they're talking about.
I don't think that's what he was saying.
Exactly.
No.
Kook and the one with the G is something entirely different. Like I said, but Skip, I don't know enough about it. Maybe he didn't know. But you should educate yourself before you speak.
And the great irony here is that Carlton Davis has been very outspoken about his experiences as a young black man, especially as a teenager in Miami, getting pulled over by the police and the fear factor of that. And he is part of the Bucks Social Justice Program Board and has met with community leaders in the Tampa area to discuss these issues going forward, black versus white cop issues. So that's the irony of this is, okay, this is what he's gone through. And yet now you've used a slur, maybe unwittingly, maybe not, against Asian people.
But I wonder how many times he's ever used that word before in his life. It's just, I find it ironic that smack dab in the middle of this, what we got going on with the hatred towards Asian American brothers and sisters, what we have going on, this is the exact time that he used that word. Just right now. So I wonder how many times, is that the kid that went to Auburn, Skip? Is that the kid that run the kickback?
Yep.
Is that him that ran it back against Alabama?
Did he run it back, Carlton Davis? I'm not sure about that.
Could it be interesting to see, Skip, how many times he's used that word before?
Yep.
I bet you hadn't been, I bet you never used that word before. Like I said, Skip, I've never heard it used in that context to say someone is lame, someone is stupid, dumb, whatever the context that he said he was referring to the word as. I've never heard it. Now, please, somebody correct me and say they've heard it used in that context. I never have. And I'm about to be 53 in a little less than 3 months. And I ain't saying I heard everything, but I'm pretty hip to a lot of the colloquial sayings and things of that nature, Skip. I'm pretty brush up on that. But I've never heard it used like that.
Okay.
Never.
I'd like to think via movies I'm pretty hip to the language, and I've never heard it either.
No.
So it's hard for me to give him a complete pass here.
Right.
And he did delete the tweet. I don't know. Now he's going to have to understand, to the victor go the spoils, and
right.
he's a defending champ now,
right.
so he is in the spotlight.
Right.
By the way, he was a 5-star recruit. He signed with Ohio State and then switched and signed to Auburn. So he's a big recruit,
yeah.
high draft pick.
Yeah.
I think he was a second-round pick.
I mean, he played well this year, Skip.
Well, after the Tyreek Hill game,
right.
because he got torched for 203 in the first quarter
right.
of that game, and that was the turning point of the year. And I thought he played very well down the stretch.
You just got to be, Skip, you got to be careful, man. I mean, you think something's cool on one end, but you're being very derogatory and divisive to someone on the other end. So just be mindful of that. I know, you don't really want to say the word lame. You want to come up with another word that means something different.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying, Skip? And I get all that. But just say the dude lame. You got a problem with, so now you want to be studio tough. So you want to say something about some producer.
Yep.
Hey, pull up. Tell him you got a problem with what he putting out there.
Agreed.
But no, you want to be tough on IG, or so you say.
I would think his mom, as he grew up in the Miami Gardens neighborhood, she was a corrections officer. So I believe he got raised the right way.
Yeah.
So I think he knows right from wrong.
Yeah, I believe he also knows that that word.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to do some digging. I'm gonna call. I got a few friends down in South Florida. I'm like, how many times y'all use that word in the context of being lame or dumb or stupid?
Good point.
Hopefully an honest mistake and a learning experience, and no word really if the NFL plans to take action. So we'll have to wait and see how this one plays out. We're going to get back to college basketball. Is Gonzaga's undefeated season now running on luck? Fox College basketball analyst Steve Lavin will join us. Help us break this down. I'm curious his thoughts after the break.